So, Susan, you started the Art Trail 25 years ago. There have been other committee members that have obviously run it,
Yeah.
and now I'm the fifth chairperson. What inspired you to set up Chichester Open Studios, and what was your original vision?
Okay, I set it up. I moved down here in 1996. I joined Artel and I was a member of the board at the Ox Market. I realised there was an awful lot of artists around here and nobody seemed to know each other. And I thought we really need to have something where we can all show our work. And I had heard, I'd never been to one, had heard about the art trails through the artist newsletter. And I thought that's what we should do, an art trail, because I had the facility of the Ox Market to hold a meeting, give me a bit of credibility.
Yeah.
I wasn't just somebody in a house somewhere starting up an art trail. I was in the Ox Market and people turned up and we got it going. My vision for the art trail was one, for the artist to meet their public. If you exhibit in a gallery, you might sit there all dressed up, people come in, there's not an awful lot of chance to really talk to them. It's uncomfortable. If you're in your studio, you're in your own environment. So you're sitting with your stuff, and if someone asks you a question, you can either point them, I mean, if you've got a technique, you can be showing how you work, but you can point them to your materials, your equipment, and of course they can see that it isn't just a matter of how many times have you heard somebody say about a Picasso, my kids could do that. Well, they can't.
No.
And it shows work in progress. So I wanted the artists to, when people came, to actually be sitting in their studio with hopefully work on display and people seeing how they worked.
Yeah.
And I wanted the artists to actually treat it as a mini exhibition, but also it gave you the opportunity to talk about your work. And it is very hard sometimes to talk about your work because often you're passionate about what you're doing.
When you first started, was the focus mainly on sculpture and painting, or did it include other art forms?
Everything.
Everything.
I'm a maker.
Same as what it does now.
Yeah, I'm a sculptor, but I am basically a maker.
Yeah.
So anybody with a technique, I love. We had lots of jewelers, weavers, and we had painters.
Yes.
And I don't think we had an awful lot of sculpture to begin with. I really can't remember. And I always think it's quite interesting when people bring children. I've had a lot of children turn up, and you get kids to, do something. I find that quite interesting.
It inspires the next generation.
It
How
does.
has your own artwork developed over the years?
I continue working with my own handmade paper. Sometimes you have years when nothing happens, nothing works, and I've been like that for about 18 months. But I think I'm coming out.
But do you remember the first ever piece you created that you thought this is going to be a showstopper?
I think that had to be a stiletto because I was just hooked on shoes right from when I was at college. It was a very female thing. I was very interested. I wanted to do fashion. I did textiles instead, and then I had a mentor, Constance Howard, who just said, "You're a sculptor." I don't know why I got this thing about shoes, but they are a thumbprint. That was the first major piece.
How many stilettos were?
500 pairs. I think the first place they went to, they're in the Craft Council. They've been to New York, all over the place. I think the first place in the UK might have been Swansea, at a solo.
500 pairs of stilettos. That must have taken some time.
It was, because the way I work, I make them twice. I make them once as a mould, which I then wax, then I make them again. So I worked out, say, 6 pieces of paper per pair. That's about 6,000 sheets of A4 paper.
Were there any challenges in getting the Chichester Open Studios Art Trail off the ground?
It was hard work because I was floundering. I come up with this great idea, then I had to make it happen. I think contacting, because it was really early emails maybe. And we did a lot of things I think we did the form. I don't think we did the forms online. I think they were all done in the post. But I found it was hard work.
Yeah, like that.
Yeah, but I had to make out I was really confident it was going to happen. But things do happen.
It did happen, and it's still going. It's
and
quite incredible.
Learn. As you went along, we learned, where it did disastrously wrong.
So how did local artists and the public respond when you first proposed the idea of the art trail?
We had this meeting at the Ox Market. Probably a dozen people turned up, really enthusiastic. great ideas, and then it was up to me to make it happen. And when other artists seemed really keen, but as I said before, we were really lucky. We had the Ox Market, as it is now, as our base,
Mm.
so people could come in there and pick up information. So I think it would have been quite difficult if I had just, because I'm not local, I wasn't local, I'd only been down here about 4 or 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
I think it would have been quite difficult to try and establish something without the Ox Market.
And the public responded really well.
Yeah.
Because I mean, the visitor numbers just keep growing every
Yeah.
year. So, did you ever imagine the art trail would still be thriving 25 years later?
I just assumed it would keep going. I do think it going on, it's really nice it has gone on.
Yes.
If you take it on, it's brilliant for your CV and it's brilliant for you.
Yeah. This is my third year as the chair. Going into the third year, I feel very honoured to be taking this on. Would you like to ask me anything?
Why are you doing this?
I'm doing this because I really wanted to gain insight and experience for myself within being able to organise a company as a businesswoman, being able to understand the local art industry and how it's running and what's out there as an opportunity. The most fascinating thing for me is being able to network with more people that are also artists. I was very confident that I could as soon as she introduced me to the other members of the committee. You know, I met Linda and Christine and Joe, and I was like, yeah, I can totally handle this with their support. And we've been doing it now for the last 3 years, and it just seems to be something that I feel very connected to.
I'm so pleased that it's continued, really. Actually, I never thought I was establishing something that would continue, but it's lovely that it has.
Yeah.
And so many artists took part. I mean, I see people who took part in the first one are still doing it.
They are still doing it. Thank you so much for, coming and letting me come into your studio and doing this interview with you, and for even starting the art trail. I think a lot of people will say thank you for that part. Yes, there's been Malcolm and Nicola and Mim and me and the other members of the committee. There's lots of people that have been involved to keep this going.
Yeah.
And there will be more people that take over after us as well in the future. Just thank you for getting it going.